Smoke rose into the sky. Cities were burning. Oceans boiled in some places, frozen solid in others. Satellites fell like rain. Earth, once proud, was broken. The stars above weren't peaceful anymore. They watched in silence as alien warships covered the skies. It began with a signal. No one knew where it came from. It wasn't human. The frequency was strange, pulsing like a heartbeat. The message inside repeated the same words. Target confirmed. Begin cleansing. Within hours, they arrived. The first fleet darkened the moon, not just ships floating fortresses the size of mountains. The world's satellites caught glimpses of creatures never seen before. Insect-like, cold, efficient. They didn't come to talk, they came to wipe everything out. Earth's armies fought back. Jets launched from every continent. Space defenses activated. Nuclear missiles were fired into orbit. Nothing worked. The enemy had shields. No weapon could break. They moved through the skies like ghosts, silent and fast. Cities like Tokyo, Paris, and Sao Paulo were hit first. In minutes, they turned to ash. The United Nations called for evacuation. But where would people run? Earth had nowhere to hide. Amid the panic, one man stood still. His name was Commander Rian Holt. He was not a famous general. He wasn't even active duty anymore. After 20 years of service, he had retired to a small cabin in northern Norway. Alone, broken, he had lost his family years ago during a failed peacekeeping mission. War had taken everything from him. Now it had come for Earth again. But Rian didn't panic. He walked outside as the sky burned orange from distant fires. His old military radio crackled with dying voices. He listened. One last command came through from Earth's defense network. Fall back. Earth is lost. Survive if you can. He didn't turn it off. Crushed it under his boot. The world could fall, but he wouldn't. Not without a fight. An hour later, Rian entered an abandoned bunker he hadn't visited in years. It was buried beneath a cliff, hidden from satellites. He opened the heavy metal doors, coughing through the dust. Inside were old weapons, EMP grenades, a broken recon drone, and something he had sworn never to use again, a coded access card to Earth's last experimental war system, SCO-7. He stared at it for a long time, then he picked it up. The power grid was failing across the planet. Communications were gone. But deep in the mountains, a few emergency generators still worked. Rian used one to power the drone. Screen flickered to life. Static. Then maps of recent activity. Red marks were everywhere. In just 6 hours. 70% of Earth's population was either dead or missing. The cities were marked as cleansed. Eon's heart slowed. Not from fear, but from something colder. A calm. Rage. He noticed something else. Near southern France, one of the alien ships had crashed. Not destroyed, just downed. Probably by a suicide airstrike. The location had a blinking signal. Alien tech active. Most would ignore that, but Rian didn't. He traveled on foot and sometimes by stolen vehicle. Roads were full of wreckage. Boaties, smoke, sky patrols swept across highways, vaporizing anyone moving. Rian knew how to hide. He moved under bridges, through forests. That night it took 3 days. When he reached the crash site, he found a half-buried ship stuck in a crater, burnt, twisted, but not dead. The interior glowed green. Strange symbols pulsed like breathing. Skin. He stepped inside. The walls hummed. It wasn't just a ship. It was alive. He moved carefully, ignoring the pain in his legs, his ribs, his shoulder. Inside the cockpit, he found something unexpected, a beacon. Small, portable, still pulsing. Rian picked it up. At that moment, the walls shifted. A creature lunged from the shadows. It wasn't tall, just 6 feet. God, its skin was black armor. Its arms were razor blades. It moved faster than any animal he'd seen. It hissed and charged. Rian didn't run. He pulled his knife and let the creature come close. At the last second, he ducked low, rolled under it, and plunged the blade into its neck. Acid hissed against the metal floor. The creature twitched, then stopped. Rian stood, shaking. Then he laughed. He was alive. He took the beacon and left the ship. Back in the mountains, he studied it. The signals were complex. Not just coordinates, but commands, orders, names, alien war plans. And then he noticed something even more shocking. They weren't expecting any survivors. The aliens had already listed Earth as cleansed. They had moved on to other targets. Only a few small hunter squads were left behind to finish any stragglers. That was their mistake. Rian activated the beacon. Using parts from the drone and old military equipment, it created a transmission translator. Within hours, he was speaking their language, at least enough to send a message. Not a cry for help, eh? A warning. He hijacked a small alien satellite still orbiting low over Earth. Then sent a signal into deep space, repeating a single sentence in the enemy's own code. Unit. Alive. Cleansing failed. Resistance forming. Prepare for counterstrike. The alien high command received it 5 hours later. At first, they didn't believe it. A single human. Still alive? Ridiculous. Then another message came. It's time from an outpost. On Mars, scout team missing. No response. Then another. Supply drop zone compromised. Signal jamming from Earth's surface. Panic began to spread. They had missed something dangerous. Rian didn't stop. He began moving between ruined cities, meeting survivors, building a small network. Engineers, doctors, ex-soldiers, and even teenagers who had watched their families die. They weren't soldiers. But Rian trained them, not like an army, like ghosts. They didn't hold ground. They struck from the shadows. They hacked alien gear, reprogrammed patrol bots, and poisoned fuel lines one by one. The enemy outposts began to vanish. A single name spread across the surviving alien communication lines. Unit Holt. They didn't know what he looked like, but they feared him, because every time they thought Earth was quiet again, he struck. One cold night, Rian stood on a rooftop in what used to be Rome. Fires glowed in the distance. Alien ships circled high above, scanning the ruins. Beside him stood a girl no older than 16, holding a sniper rifle too big for her. Her hand shook. "You don't have to do this," Rian said softly. She looked up. "You said we fight so others don't have to." He nodded once. They waited. A patrol passed below. Rian raised his hand. The girl held her breath, pulled the trigger. Patrol unit dropped. Somewhere in the skies above, alarms began to scream, and Rian whispered, "Good. Let them hear us." The next day, alien forces sent a kill squad, one of their elite units, specially trained, cybernetic, and ruthless. They landed in the ruins of Berlin. Heat sensors, AI trackers, heavy armor. Rian led them on a chase for hours, through subways, sewers, collapsed buildings. When they finally cornered him, they saw something strange. A single man, standing alone, with a small smile on his face. Then, the walls exploded, booby traps, pulse mines, falling concrete. When the dust settled, only one being stood alive. Rian Holt. He had just killed the best the enemy had. Far away, on a command ship orbiting another world, an alien admiral stared at a screen. The words on it were terrifying. Resistance level, red. Human entity, Holt uncontained. The admiral turned to his officers. "Send more ships." But one of them hesitated. "To Earth." The admiral frowned. "Yes." The officer's voice trembled. "But Earth is not quiet anymore." Back on Earth, in the shadows of broken cities and burning fields, Rian stood with his small team. He looked at the stars above. He knew the war was far from over, but something had changed. Earth was not finished. He would not die quietly. And now, the galaxy would learn what happened when you pushed a human too far. The aliens thought the fire had died. They believed Earth had been silenced. Every city turned to ash, every voice erased. Their ships floated in orbit like cold statues, watching a planet they assumed was finished. But deep in the Swiss Alps, Beneath layers of rock and ice, a spark was still alive. A hidden basehold, forgotten, built during the first days of the Earth, defense treaty still functioned. Inside it, faded screens blinked. Power was low, supplies were worse, and the people inside, broken, until a voice reached them. It wasn't alien, it was human, crackling, it's distorted, but real. This is Commander Rion Holt. I am alive. And if you can hear this, ... Earth is not finished. The people inside that base froze. For days, they had heard nothing but static. No signals. No rescue. No hope. But now someone was speaking. And that someone was fighting back, among those who heard the message was Dr. Lena Voss, a communication specialist. Once, she had worked at a major spaceport in New Zealand. When the attack came, she barely escaped. Now, she lived in cold silence, eating ration bars and watching the mountains for movement. As Holt's signal played again, she stood from her console. She didn't speak. She ran, straight to the lower levels of the base, where the other survivors, stayed soldiers, scientists, engineers, even a few civilians. Her eyes were wide. Someone's alive, she said. The others looked up. Someone's fighting. Commander Holt's message repeated on a loop. They think Earth is gone. They're wrong. I have tech. I have plans, but I need you. All of you find me, and will make them regret everything. His location was hidden in code coordinates buried in the signal. Dr. Voss worked non-stop for 12 hours, decoding it. When she finally cracked the transmission, her hand shook. He was in northern Spain, hiding in the ruins of an old military airport. It was hundreds of kilometers away, but someone had to go. Among the soldiers in the Alpine base was Sergeant Caden Maria Quiet, a scarred man who had once led missions into hostile zones. Now, he volunteered without hesitation. I'll go, he said. I've done worse runs. They gave him a map, a cold-weather suit, and a rifle. Then they handed him something more important, a portable transmitter. Could link the bases, share supplies, build strategy, reconnect the world. Caden left that same night. The journey was brutal. Snow-covered roads. Alien drones circled high in the sky, scanning for heat signatures. Caden moved mostly at night. During the day, he hid in caves, old buildings, and once inside the engine compartment of a burnt-out cargo train. He didn't sleep much. He didn't need to. What pushed him forward was the memory of his wife and son. It's lost when the first alien blast wiped out Eastern Europe. He walked with that pain in his heart, and Holt's message ringing in his ears. Meanwhile in Spain, Rion Holt wasn't idle. He had gathered a small group of survivors, farmers, soldiers, even a few enemy defectors, aliens, who had turned against their own after seeing what was happening to Earth. Among them was Zelvar, a low-ranking tech, drone pilot from the invading fleet. His species had no voice on the lights on their foreheads that flashed in code. But Holt understood him better than most humans, because Zelvar, too, had lost everything. Together, they built a secret command post inside the remains of an underground hangar. They repaired broken alien scanners, translated captured data, and set traps for patrols. Every time an enemy unit came near, they disappeared. No one escaped. On the 7th night of Caden's journey, he found himself cornered. He was crossing a valley near Lyon when a patrol ship spotted him. Sirens screamed. Beams of red light scanned the forest. He ran fast, silent, but he was hit. A blast grazed his side, burning through coat and skin. He crashed through frozen branches, tumbling into a riverbed. Silence returned. He lay there, bleeding and shaking. Then he heard something above, a whisper in the wind. Not human, but close. Someone stepped beside him, not a rescuer, a hunter. It was a striker, a class of alien, assassin built for tracking and elimination. Tall, silent, wrapped in dark armor. Its face was smooth, featureless. Its hands were blades. It stepped closer. Caden reached for his rifle to slow, The striker raised a claw. Then, a blast of lightning blue light slammed into its chest. The striker collapsed. Caden turned his head. He saw a shadow moving through the trees. Human, the voice came soft. "You're late," was Rion Holt. Back at the Alpine base, Dr. Voss gasped. As the screen blinked, link established. The transmitter had connected. Earth's resistance had its first 2 nodes. For the first time since the invasion began. Humans in 2 regions were speaking to each other. Plans could begin. Inside the hangar, Caden's wounds were treated. He sat beside Holt, drinking bitter water and watching maps light up. "You really did it," Kidal said. "Not yet," Holt replied, "but we've started." He leaned forward and showed Caden a list. Enemy ship schedules, landing zones, energy, transfer points. "We're going to hit them where it hurts," Holt said. "Just us?" Caden asked. "No," Rion said. "Not anymore. Across the Alps." Dr. Voss smiled as the message played. "To all survivors, this is not the end. Earth speaks again. Join us." Far above, in orbit, an alien command ship received the hacked signal. The captain stared at the human voice. He didn't understand the words, but the tone was clear. Challenge across the galaxy. Single order was sent. Eliminate the voice. They didn't know it yet, but they had already failed, because the voice wasn't just one man anymore. It was many, and it was growing louder. The bounty hunter's name was Varkesh. He wasn't part of any army. He didn't wear a uniform, and he didn't believe in honor. He believed in payment. For decades, Varkesh hunted across galaxies. Pirates, criminals, defectors he always brought. The body, dead or alive, usually dead. He liked it that way. He wasn't loyal to the council. He was loyal to the hunt. So when a strange contract came through the black market channels, one that offered 10 times the usual bounty, he paid attention. Target: human male, codename Rion Holt. Condition: terminate. No survivors near him. Bonus: if resistance nodes are eliminated, the file was short. 1 image, low quality. Just a shadow standing over a ruined patrol bot. But the attached message caught Varkesh's attention. He speaks. And now others. Rise. End this voice before the fire spreads. Varkesh leaned back in his dark ship, sharp eyes glowing red. A grin formed across his mouth full of broken teeth. He whispered finally, "A real hunt." Far below, on broken Earth, Holt didn't know someone was coming. He was too busy preparing for war. The link between Spain and the Alpine base was now secure. Survivors across Europe were getting the message. Small resistance teams were forming hiding. In sewer lines, tunnels, ruined schools, old shopping malls. They didn't have weapons, but they had something more important. A reason to fight. Each night, Holt broadcasted short encrypted messages. "You are not alone. Fight smart, not loud. You're not finished." But as more voices joined him, so did more danger. And one night, as Holt walked through the base with Caden and Zelvar, the sky above shifted. A small black ship entered orbit. No ID, no signals, no broadcast. Varkesh had arrived. The bounty hunter landed far from the resistance base. He didn't rush. He never did. He walked slowly across frozen hills and ruined roads, scanning, calculating. He found signs, burned. Metal, crushed, drone parts, alien weapon fragments. It was clear someone was fighting back. Cleverly, he smiled. Then he picked up something from the dirt. A human boot print. Fresh inside the mountain base, Holt was reviewing the next mission. A supply transport was scheduled to land near Old Lisbon Ann. Alien drop with materials for ground patrols. If they could steal it, the resistance would get plasma batteries and encrypted drives. Caden volunteered. So did for others, before they left. Holt gave a simple warning. If something feels wrong, run. They nodded. No one knew. The wrong had already begun that night. The Lisbon team reached the drop zone. Silent, hidden. Everything looked normal, until one of the scouts didn't return. Then another scream came from the trees. Then silence. Caden raised his rifle. Fall back. He shouted, too late. A shadow dropped from the sky blades flashing. The air burned. Varkesh moved like smoke, fast, silent, brutal in less than 60 seconds. 3 resistance fighters were dead. Caden barely escaped, bleeding, limping. He activated the emergency signal and crawled into a collapsed subway tunnel. The hunter didn't chase him. He didn't need to. He had what he wanted. Proof. Rian Holt's people were here now. It was only a matter of time when Caden returned to the base. His face was pale. We were hunted, he said. Holt frowned. What kind of patrol? Caden shook his head. It wasn't a patrol. It was something else. Bigger, smarter, faster. Zelvar flickered warning lights. He typed quickly. Sounds like grid hunter class. Possibly independent. Means someone hired them. Holt looked at the others. Then someone out there is scared. He stood. Good. Meanwhile, Varkesh had set a trap. He left false signals across the ruins of Marseille, staged fights. Broken alien gear, mock distress, calls. He wanted to lure Holt into the open. But Holt didn't take the bait. Instead, he sent drones. From afar, he watched the bounty hunter move. He watched how he tracked, how he fought, how he set traps of his own. And Holt realized something. This wasn't a soldier. It was a predator. And predators bleed that night. Holt prepared his own plan. He called it Operation Flicker. He chose 5 decoy locations with small resistance squads. He planted false communications in each then. Using captured alien tech, he sent a fake main base. Location to the stars? Varkesh took the bait. The black ship screamed through the sky, heading toward the secret base in the ruins of old Barcelona. When he arrived, nothing, just empty buildings and remote-controlled. Weapons waiting in silence, they activated as soon as he stepped into the kill zone. Explosions lit the night. Dust rose and whispered into his mic, "You came to hunt, beast. But this is our forest now." But Varkesh survived. Barely he limped from the flames, armor cracked, bleeding from his side. He had underestimated the human. He wouldn't do it again. Now it was personal. The next morning, Holt knew the hunter was still alive. He looked at the cracked helmet recovered from the blast zone marked with alien kill symbols, each etched in dried blood. "We won't get a second chance," Holt said. So he did something unexpected. He sent a direct message through the alien relay system. "No. Encryption? Just one sentence? You missed. Come finish the job, if you can." It was risky, but it worked. Varkesh came that night, straight to the mountains, straight into Holt's base. The alarms screamed. Resistance fighters took positions. But Holt didn't hide. He stood in the center of the corridor, calm. Varkesh entered, blades drawn. "You speak too much, human," he growled. "You bleed too easy," Holt replied. Then they fought, not with guns, not with armies, just 2 warriors, old versus ruthless. Holt dodged the first strike. Threw a flash mine, rolled beneath a blade. Fired a plasma burst from a stolen alien sidearm. Varkesh roared. Slammed into Holt. The 2 crashed through walls, down metal stairs into the lower levels. Pain, sparks, blood then. A long moment passed. Caden and the others rushed down. What they saw made them freeze. Varkesh was on his knees, coughing blood, and Rian Holt stood behind him, cold, calm, holding a glowing blade against the back of his neck. "Earth says hello," Holt whispered, and ended it. The galaxy received the shock 2 days later. A bounty hunter, with 983 confirmed kills, had fallen. On Earth, the criminal networks went silent. The Council paused all contract offers, even pirate channels, removed Holt's name from the active list, because now Holt wasn't prey. He was a warning, in the fire of resistance. It was now wildfire. The stars were quiet. For a long time, Galaxy believed Earth was dead. Silent, burned, forgotten, just another failed species beneath the boots of the Galactic Council. But then, Something impossible happened. A signal was received, not encrypted, not hidden, loud, clear, human. And it began with a voice the galaxy thought it had destroyed. "This is Commander Rion Holt of Earth. I speak now to all of you watching from above. You thought we were finished? You thought the fire had gone out? You were wrong." The signal was transmitted across hundreds of systems. It hijacked alien news networks. It slipped into comms. It overrode spaceport screens. From the Council, chambers on Zenther Prime 2, mining colonies in the Corran Void, beings stopped what they were doing and listened. Holt's voice continued. "You came to our world. You broke our skies. You erased our cities. And yet, here I am, speaking, standing, alive." He paused. The silence echoed. "We are not done, and we are not alone. Resistance has begun. And if you're watching this, know this: Earth remembers." The Galactic Council was furious. The High Speaker, a massive telepathic entity known as Velazaur, slammed its mind into the war chamber. "Silence the humans," it said. "Wipe their signal. Burn their planet again if needed." But something unexpected happened. Their systems couldn't block the transmission. Every time they tried to cut the feed, it rerouted. Holt's engineers had used stolen alien tech and quantum tunneling repeaters. Each cut made the signal louder. Even worse, other humans had added their voices, one by one. "This is Dr. Lena Voss. We live in the Alps. We still resist. Sergeant Caden here. You took my family. I'm taking your dropships. My name is Hassan Koro. You bombed my farm. I grow weapons now." One voice became 20, then 50, then thousands in undistant planets. Aliens watched with quiet horror. They had seen Earth as primitive, emotional, weak, but now they saw something else. Something terrifying. Survival with purpose. In a deep mining station on Threx-9, a worker named Jarlin, who had once laughed when Earth fell, now whispered, "They should have let the humans be. Now they've woken something worse." Her coworker nodded, nervous. It's like their pain made them stronger. Back on Earth, inside the resistance base, Holt sat in front of a glowing panel. He wasn't smiling. He wasn't proud. He was focused. "The galaxy needed to hear us," he told Lena. "They heard," she said quietly. "But what happens now?" Caden answered from across the room. "They strike harder." And he was right. The retaliation came fast. 3 days after the broadcast, an alien punishment fleet entered Earth's orbit. 10 dreadnoughts, 32 cruisers, and one weapon no human had seen before. Black Cube called the cleanser. It didn't. Fire missiles. It erased energy itself, where it hovered. Machines shut down. Holt's base went dark for 17 seconds, long enough to cause panic. But Holt had a backup deep inside the mountain. Shielded behind 10 layers of rock sat a quantum core powered by human emotion. Yes, emotion, rage, hope, loss. It was a prototype built in secret before the fall. It worked now. Lights blinked back on. Turrets rearmed. Resistance survived. Barely then, something more unexpected happened. An alien scientist named Kieran Vo defected. She had worked on the Cleanser project. She watched the human broadcast and felt shame. Not because the humans were strong, but because they were right. She sent a message too. "Holt, I know how to shut the Cleanser down. Let me help you, or we all lose." Some wanted to kill her. Zelvar confirmed her identity. Holt chose to trust her. "You believe in us now?" he asked. "No," Kieran Vo said. "I believe in what you've become," while the council screamed, and sent more forces. Holt built something else. The third broadcast. This one wasn't for the galaxy. It was for Earth. He gathered voices from every resistant cell. Survivors in ruins, families in bunkers. Soldiers hiding in the remains of old. "Power stations," he told them. "Speak. The world thinks you're gone. Tell them they're wrong," and they did. "We're still in Kenya. We hide in the old wind farms. Berlin is broken, but we live under the museums. Alaska resists. One message, in a child's voice, hit the hardest. They took my school, but my mom still teaches me. We don't forget Earth. That line reached even alien systems where translators failed, because truth doesn't need language. In deep space, an admiral of a non-aligned species watched the human messages. He turned to his line, Cohen command, and said, "If they rise from this, ... the council will fall." Inside the resistance base, Holt sat in silence after the third broadcast. Lena asked him, "Do you think it's enough?" He looked at her. "No, but it's how we begin." What no one expected, what no alien predicted, was what happened next. The broadcast didn't just inspire humans, it inspired others. Alien species oppressed by the council for years started whispering, started organizing. One message from a hidden world said, "If Earth stands, why can't we?" And just like that, the fire spread. Off-world. The resistance wasn't just a human idea now. It was something larger, something the galaxy hadn't seen in millennia, hope born from ashes. Long ago, before Earth fell, there was a project known only by its codename. Project WRAITH. Not even the generals knew the full story. Only a few scientists, a few test pilots, and one man who survived the crash of the first and only prototype, Rion Holt. The Wraith wasn't a normal warship. It wasn't designed to carry fleets or drop soldiers. It was built for one purpose only: infiltrate, disrupt, and vanish. Stealth beyond stealth. It bent gravity. It warped light. It could move inside enemy fleets without triggering sensors. But something went wrong. During the final test flight, the ship's AI overloaded. Its pulse core melted. The pilot was burned. Holt was thrown into the sea, half dead. After that, project was shut down. The wreck was buried, files deleted, and everyone moved on except Holt. Now, years later, with the galaxy watching and Earth barely surviving, he remembered it and he whispered, "It's time." The others thought he was joking. "A ghost ship?" Caden asked. "You mean the one that nearly killed you?" Holt nodded. "It was ahead of its time," Lena frowned. "You're thinking of rebuilding it?" "Not rebuilding," Holt said. "Unburying it." The site was deep in the Arctic. Frozen, forgotten. The Council never found it because they never believed Earth could hide something that advanced. But Holt knew the path. He, Zelvar, and a team of engineers took a dropship north, through violent winds and EMP storms. 2 days later, they reached the hangar hidden beneath a dead glacier, and there it was, half-frozen, cracked, covered in old burn marks. The Wraith, Zelvar scanned it, structure 62% intact. Power core missing. "Yeah, module fractured," Lena whispered. "Can we even fix it?" Holt stared at the hull. "I'll fly it with my blood if I have to." The repair process began. They didn't have much. No, labs, no original manuals. But they had something better. Motivation. Piece by piece. They replaced the core with stolen alien tech, wired the stealth layer with quantum weaves from the cleansers. Owned system thanks to Kieran Vo. They didn't try to make it perfect. They just needed it to fly once because it had one. It shouldn't sneak into orbit, get close to the cleanser cube. Upload a virus Kieran had designed to melt its internal memory. One chance, no second try. Back at the resistance base, many were afraid. What if it fails? Someone asked. What if Holt dies? But others answered, then we carry his voice. Forward. The night before the launch, Holt sat alone inside the cockpit of the Wraith. The controls were old. The seat still had burns. The AI interface blinked, slow and broken. "Hello again," he whispered. He placed his hand on the console. It lit up, weak, but alive. A voice crackled. ... RIAN. Holt pilot. Recognized. He smiled. Caden stood outside the hangar. He looked up as the sky turned black. The Council fleet was coming again. Bigger, faster, meaner. He radioed in. "We don't have time, Commander." Holt's voice came through. "Then let's make time." The WRAITH Took off, it didn't roar, it didn't shine, it disappeared, right off the radar, just like it was made to do, up in orbit. The Council didn't notice. Their focus was on massive resistance signals lighting up across Europe. They didn't see the ghost, not until it was already inside their defense grid, inside the Wraith. Holt flew alone. Oxygen low, power unstable. He could see the cleanser cube ahead, floating, waiting. He whispered to the AI, "Final flight." "Old friend, let's make it count." He got close. Activated the signal. Chiron's virus began uploading. Suddenly, alarm screamed. The cleanser detected the interference. It began powering up to fire. The Wraith's systems glitched. The ship's AI said, "Eject now. Survival, 12%. Holt stayed. Not until it's done. Down below, resistance bases were watching, waiting. The sky above began glowing. The cleanser fired. A beam of black energy tore through the clouds, but it never reached Earth because the cleanser exploded. From the inside out, it cracked, burned, then vanished in a flash of violet light, and with it, all its orbiting support systems failed. The sky cleared. The fleet pulled back in confusion. Inside the resistance base, people cheered, cried, fell to their knees. But Caden didn't celebrate. He asked, "Where's Holt?" The Wraith was gone. No signal, no wreckage, just gone. For 48 hours they searched drones, satellites, patrols. Nothing then. A weak ping, deep in the Atlantic, they found the cockpit module, crashed, half crushed, but with signs of life. Inside, barely breathing, Rion Holt, alive, he was burned, his right arm shattered. Breathing through tubes, but his eyes opened, and the first words he said were, "Did it work?" Caden smiled, tears in his eyes. "You brought down the gods." News spread fast. Earth had destroyed the galaxy's most feared weapon, with one old ship and one stubborn. Human across alien systems, fear turned to doubt, doubt turned to cracks. And cracks turned to rebellion. The legend of the Wraith was reborn, but more than that so was hope. After the Wraith destroyed the cleanser, everything changed. The Galactic Council didn't admit defeat. They never did, but something in their voice, it cracked. Their broadcasts became shorter, colder, more like threats and less like commands. The words "execute all Earthborn on sight" were repeated across dozens of systems, but not everyone obeyed anymore, because something else had started, spreading. Not fear, not chaos, hope. It began quietly. One colony, on the edge of the Zarnith cloud made up of 4 alien species, refused to report human locations. They weren't humans themselves. They weren't rebels. They just said, "We no longer serve tyrants who kill survivors." The Council sent a punishment team, but by the time they arrived, the whole colony had vanished, evacuated. No trace. Only one thing was left behind. A painted message on the wall. "We learned this from Earth." Out. Inside Earth's Resistance HQ. Caden stared at the latest map. Red dots were enemy strongholds. Green dots were human hideouts. But now, new blue dots were appearing. Independent resistance cells. Not human. Aliens. Organizing. Fighting, sending encrypted messages back to Earth. One said, "You stood when broken, so now we stand too." Another said, "If humans can burn under their skies and still rise, so can we." It wasn't a human resistance anymore. It was a revolution. Rian Holt sat in a hospital bed, half covered in bandages. He couldn't walk yet, couldn't lift his arm, but he still gave orders. Lena brought reports. Daily she smiled. "Guess what? The slaves on Vorga 6 overthrew their captains today." Holt blinked. "Aliens?" "Yeah, frog-faced ones. Fierce. Named themselves the Unbroken." He nodded slowly. "They'll come for them next. They'll always do. But this time," Holt smiled, "they won't come alone in the shadows of the galaxy." Earth did something else, something bold. They activated Signal Beacon Alpha, A device left on an asteroid near the old galactic trade routes that sent a simple message across the stars. In every known language, the fire began on Earth. Now it spreads. Join us. The council panicked. For centuries, they ruled by fear, by control now. Fear was working against them. Aliens once loyal were now silent. Some defected, some vanished. Some started building weapons of their own. But Earth knew this was just the beginning, because the Council was preparing something bigger, something hidden. The Resistance received strange reports, ships disappearing near. Sector 17B. Signals lost in the crimson, expanse, whole moons gone dark. The Council was up to something, but no one knew what so. Holt made a decision. They would go there. You're not even recovered, Caden argued. I don't need legs to think, Holt said. Lena raised a brow. You're planning something risky. I'm planning to find the enemy's heart. They launched a recon mission too. Stealth ships. 4 resistance fighters. And one defector from the Council-KIREN-foe. She had studied Council secrets for years. She knew where they hid things. And she knew where to look. In the dead space between stars. The team found it. A station hidden inside a collapsed star's gravity. Shell, invisible to most sensors. Surrounded by black mines and dead satellites, they got close. Used old Council codes, slipped past the edge, and what they saw inside made blood run cold. It was a factory, massive, living, pulsing machines. Built by the Council long ago, machines meant for erasing planets. But this time, they weren't loading weapons. They were loading prisoners. Tens of thousands, chained, drugged, sleeping. Some were humans. Most were not. Kieran whispered, horrified. They're building a living shield. What? Caden asked. They want to send this through rebellion zones so no one fires. So no one dares shoot down ships carrying their own. Lena's voice trembled. They're using lives as armor. Holt's reply came back overcomes. Then we tear the armor off. The team planted charges. Hijacked signals. One of the Resistance. Pilots stayed behind. Sacrificed himself to ensure the blast reached the core. The explosion didn't just destroy the station. It exposed the Council's secret to every system. Hundreds of species saw what was done in their name, and the galaxy snapped. On the moon of Trenya, the population overthrew the Council outpost. On Zular 9, the sky lit up as alien workers destroyed their control collars. On Quanar Theta, an entire prison. World rose in revolt. Everywhere. Uprisings. An Earth signal was at the center of it all. But the Council was not finished. Not yet. They still had fleets. Still had generals. Still had the Dread Mother, a weapon not seen for 3,000 years, sleeping under the oceans of Nar. This I eyed it. Began to stir. Back on Earth. Holt felt it. He woke suddenly in the night. Sweating, breathing heavy. He looked out the shattered window of his recovery. Room stars blinked quietly. And still he said, the worst is coming. Lena stood beside him. Caden loaded a new rifle. Zelvar powered up old alien armor. And Holt said, very clearly, let them come. Because now Earth wasn't just surviving. It was leading. In the deep oceans of Narthista, something ancient stirred. The currents stopped. The crust cracked. And a sound. Low and terrible rippled through the water. A sound older than Earth's first flame. The Council called it Project NAIOMEGA. But in every secret file, in every forbidden archive, it had only one true name. The Dread Mother. Long ago, when the Council first rose, they faced a war they couldn't win. A war against the starborn machines, beings of energy and logic to survive. They created a living weapon. Half flesh, half quantum crystal. Driven by one command, consume all who disobey. But it was too powerful. Even its creators feared it so. They sealed it, buried it, and prayed it would never rise again. Now, Earth had lit the match of rebellion, and the Council had lost control, so they opened the old vaults. They chose desperation, and they woke her up. The oceans boiled. Islands cracked. NAR this I I screamed, and from the black water, something colossal rose. Thousands of tendrils, eyes like burning stars. A body larger than cities. It didn't fly. It flowed. Gravity bent around it. Planets far away trembled. Rion Holt watched the footage from a spy satellite. He didn't speak for 5 full minutes then. He whispered, "They're calling in death itself." Inside Earth's HQ, silence ruled. No one had words, no strategy. Lena finally said, "How do you fight a god?" Zelvar's voice was steady. "You don't. You blind it, distract it, delay it," Caden added. "Or you send in someone too. Stubborn to die." They all looked at Holt. He nodded once, and we make this personal. Across the galaxy, panic spread. Resistance cells sent desperate messages. She's moving through Sector Zeta 4. Moons are collapsing in her wake. We fired missiles, nothing touched her. One by one, planets went silent. She didn't destroy cities, she swallowed them. Her body wrapped around satellites, crushed entire fleets, and kept going. But Earth wasn't blind anymore. They had allies. Now, Zernit, ARNIT, Quan AR rebels. Even the exiled Trillari monks, who once held knowledge older than stars. Together, they formed a plan, a crazy one, not to kill her, but to trap her, deep inside the Kuros. Belt was an ancient gravity field, once a battlefield, of black holes and neutron stars. If they could lure her inside and detonate a chain of dark matter cores, they could fold the space around her, seal her again, not forever, but long enough. The bait. Earth's last orbital station, Citadel. Vance.empty. Wired with explosives and set to transmit one signal. This is the source of Earth's rebellion. The plan began. Thousands of ships, manned and unmanned, moved across space. Resistance. Fleets sacrificed themselves to slow her. Alien fighters flew suicide runs into her tendrils, one by one. They bought time, and finally, the Dread Mother turned toward the Citadel. Rion Holt, still healing, insisted on flying the command ship himself. Lena tried to stop him. "You're still weak. I've been weak before. Didn't stop me then." As the Dread Mother entered the Kuros belt, space around her bent and twisted. Ships flickered out of existence. Time seemed slower, but the Citadel waited, glowing, calling her. The final moment came. She reached for it, and Holt triggered the sequence. The dark matter cores ignited, space folded inward, reality cracked, and with a scream so deep it made stars flicker. The Dread Mother was trapped, the shockwave through ships for light years. Earth's systems flickered, but when it ended, she was gone. Sealed silence returned. Cheers erupted in 1,000. Resistance bases. Aliens wept. Children danced, but Holt collapsed. Too much radiation, too much pressure. His body failed. He woke up 3 days later in a stasis pod. Lena sat beside him. "You're too stubborn," she said. He smiled weakly. "Still alive, barely?" "Then we keep fighting." As though the Dread Mother had fallen. The Council had one move left. A plan buried even deeper. A weapon even older. A truth no one was meant to know, and it had a name only Holt remembered. The first protocol. The Dread Mother was sealed. Billions across the galaxy celebrated old. Enemies became allies. The Resistance had become more than just a movement. It was now a symbol of survival, of unity, of hope. But in the dark halls of the broken Council, something moved. Not fear, not defeat. Something ancient. A surviving counselor. Varnacure limped through the ruins of their command chamber. His skin was burned, his implants sparking, but in his hand was a key metal. Simple, cold. He reached a hidden wall, spoke a forgotten word, and the floor opened. A platform rose. On it, a black cube, dead dash looking, but inside it, signal. One word. Protocol. 1. Human contingency. The cube lit up, and stars far away began to dim. Because Earth's enemies had one final plan, a plan made long ago, before Earth even entered the stars. The Council had discovered something deep beneath their oldest vaults, a signal buried in space. Itself, not alien, not artificial, but human. It terrified them, because the signal had come before humans ever left Earth, before we had ships, before we even had satellites. And yet, it spoke of war. It showed blueprints of weapons no one understood. It gave coordinates, threats, in one sentence. It's repeated 1,000 times. If ever you raise a hand against Earth, know that we were already watching. The Council didn't understand it. They couldn't destroy it, so they hid it, called it the First Protocol. Now, with their empire in flames, activated it back on Earth. Warning lights exploded. Satellites died instantly. Old servers melted. AI systems screamed. Lena looked at the sky. It's not an attack, she said. It's a message. Across the galaxy, strange things happened. Dead moons began to glow. Ruins under Martian soil started humming. Old Earth relics hidden in alien museums unlocked. They weren't decorations. They were keys. Caden picked up one near Earth's South Pole. It lit up, projected a hologram into the sky. Thousands watched, and the voice that spoke wasn't alien. It wasn't human either. It was older, mechanical, but filled with emotion. It said, "To the galaxy, you feared us. You attacked us. You tried to erase us. You forgot we are the children of the storm. You forgot this was never yours to conquer. This is the final awakening. All failsafes removed. Initiating Guardian class. Titan." Jupiter's orbit, a black asteroid cracked open. Inside it, a ship the size of a continent began to rise. Not made of metal, but of something. Alive. No fuel, no engines. It moved using gravitational memory, something no species had ever built. The ship spoke one sentence as it activated. Directive accepted. Earth protected. Panic spread through the remaining Council systems. Their fleets turned back. Deserters fled to resistance space, begging for amnesty. The resistance stood confused. Caden looked at Holt. "Did we build that?" He shook his head slowly. "No, someone else did. Long before us." It became clear. Earth had once been something else. Not just a planet, but a seed. A vault, a test. And when humanity evolved far enough to face extinction, the past unlocked itself to defend. The future the Titan ship did not attack. It simply hovered, watching, waiting, in every planet that had helped Earth. It transmitted protection codes to them. They were now under its shield. The Council crumbled. Its members vanished into hiding. Its cities surrendered. The war ended, not with a bang, but with the galaxy bowing to a truth it never wanted to face. Earth had always been more than it seemed in the days that followed. Humanity didn't build an empire. They didn't seek revenge. They helped rebuild. They gave medicine, shared technology. And when the galaxy asked why, Rian Holt finally spoke publicly. One message, simple: we never wanted conquest. Just peace. But you left us no choice. Now we protect those who once feared us. Remember who we are. The galaxy called them monsters once. Now they called them guardians. On a quiet night, Lena asked Holt, "Will it ever end? The fear, the threat?" He looked up at the stars, at the Titans still waiting beyond the edge of the system, and said, "As long as we stand united, no enemy can erase us again." Because Earth had fallen once, but one human refused to die quietly, and because of him, the whole galaxy rose, and no one would ever forget Earth again.